Hello, and welcome back to your daily dose of truth to hear. I am Melanie Keenan. Today's program is Truth Talk with Bill and Brandy. Over the last few weeks, there's been a lot of changes going on regarding are you immunized or not immunized? What can we do? What should we do if you chose not to be immunized for medical reasons or just for personal reasons? Our conversation today is going to be looking at what the world is doing, not just the United States. What are other countries doing to ensure the safety of our communities and individuals? But also, do we really have a choice not to take the immunization? But we're also going to talk first. Brandy is bringing to us, I can't even express what has happened in our government again. But Brandy's going to bring that to us. So before we get the panel in, please like, subscribe, share this channel with other people so that we can get the message going out more and more. Well, here we go. Hello, Brandy, and hello, Bill. How are you?
Hello.
Um, Brandy, right before we came on, you shared a story with me that just knocked me breathless because I'm like, I don't understand. So will you give us that leeway and share that with us? I want to put something on the screen.
Absolutely. Um, I was floored. You said the exact words that I said. I was absolutely floored when I heard that. It says Georgia State troopers arrested State Representative Park Cannon on Thursday as she knocked on Governor Brian Kemp's door, interrupting his live stream, announced that he had signed an elections bill into law. So basically, in the video, you see some protesters, but protesting is legal, right? So they're protesting outside of the door, and she steps out of the line and knocks on the door. The officer beside her says, "Don't knock on the door again." And she knocks on the door twice, and then they go to arrest her.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. I watched the video. She literally was talking very calm to the officer at the door. She was explaining why she was there. She knocked very politely. It wasn't a bang, it was a wrist knock, actually. And she was standing quite away from the door. When you look at protesters, when I first saw protesters, I thought, well, why is she there protesting at the Capitol? Didn't we learn not to do that? But there was literally like maybe 6 people. It wasn't a big protest. They had one sign. They were not noisy. They were not chanting. They were not doing anything but watching her knock on that door to gain entrance because a law was being signed and it should be signed with public witness, but it was being signed behind closed doors by the governor. She was arrested and then dragged backwards. You can watch the video.
Backwards.
They moved her backwards and dragged her by under her armpits. Now, my problem is this. One, she's a state representative. Why couldn't she be in the governor's office if he was just signing a bill? I don't understand that. I don't know enough politics. That's where Bill's going to come in. But two, you had how many hundreds of white male and female protesters that was the door was opened for them to protest. This woman knocked on a door and she is being dragged out, arrested. I'm not understanding that. Why didn't they wait for it to be over and then talk about a conversation later? And then maybe if they decided she needed to be arrested, arrest her. That's what they did to all the other protesters, right? They let them go home and then they tracked them down later. I have a problem with this. There was no, you could see in the video, one lady was like, what violation code are you arresting her on? What is the charge? They didn't give one. They would not even speak. They didn't even tell her what she was being arrested for. They just silently put her arms behind her back and moved her out. They never said a word to this woman. I don't think, Bill, can you arrest someone in silence like that?
Well, you don't have to tell other people what they're being arrested, like why this other person is being arrested, but you do have to tell the person when they're being booked. That's the law. So at the moment of arrest, you don't, it's not a law that you have to tell somebody why they're being arrested. Although I've always done it. This is why you're being arrested. Because it makes sense to me why you'd want to know that. I don't know what they arrested her for because I don't know the laws of Georgia. I have no idea. I am amazed right now. Once again, from what I've seen, because I read all about this, it looks crazy to me that she got arrested. But I actually, now a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, and I understand that. I do think that if a white guy would have knocked on the door and told not to and did it again, they would have still done the same thing. I actually think that would have happened. But because it's like, hey, don't do that or we're going to arrest you. You can't, don't do that, I'm going to arrest you. Okay. The problem is making the statement in the first place, I'm going to arrest you. I think because once I tell somebody, if you cross this line, I'm going to arrest you, and then they cross the line,
you have to arrest them.
I kind of got to almost now and I probably shouldn't have drawn that line. By the way, I've seen that line drawn a few times when I thought, let's not draw that line right there. But in my opinion, I think that was what went on. Probably has something to do with what happened in Washington too, in January. I don't know. I don't agree with any of this. None of it. I think people have the right to protest. I think people have the right to have their voices heard. Now, I don't think you have the right to vandalize things. I don't think you have the right. You can even yell. I actually think you can yell, but I don't think you have the right to hurt anybody. I don't think you have the right to burn anything down. But it is two-sided. Like all those people that were protesting in Oregon and Washington those people are mostly peaceful protesters, and actually probably true, but they painted that whole thing with a broad brush. And then everybody in Washington, they were all, terrorists. They painted that with a broad brush, which wasn't true either. And I know a lot of people lost their jobs that went to Washington, and they didn't go in the Capitol. They just went they were on the lawn. They didn't even bother walking to the Capitol, and they still lost their jobs. So this is out of control on both sides. I'm not blaming one side over the other. This is out of control politics that we've never seen in my lifetime anyway, maybe before, but where we had this narrative that we could discuss things and disagree and vote for the other guy and campaign, but once it's done, and we're not gonna go and burn the whole system down because you didn't vote for my guy. That's not true anymore. Right now, today, people on both sides are like, I'm burning the system down. You didn't go with me.
Right.
It's not about you. It's about the group of people all agreed this. You don't get so much of a say that you get to overshadow everybody else's say. And that's what we're doing right now. And by the way, we're doing it all over the place. Representatives in Congress last year and 2 years ago actually said, and it's on video, you can watch it. These are senators and Congress people saying, if you see somebody, and they're saying of the other political persuasion, in a restaurant, on the street, anywhere you see them, you go up and you yell at them and you scream at them and you tell them we don't want you here anymore. And I'm like, no, you don't do that. You don't do any of that. So my point is we've got politicians telling us to do it, and then somebody goes and does it, and they get arrested for it, and we got people screaming for that person. Then we got people over here screaming for the other guy. We got to stop screaming for our side. We got to start thinking about what this big picture is. And once again, I don't have any idea what the laws in Georgia are, and I can't pretend I do. California, there is no law that person broke that I know of.
Well, the thing is this. I do agree that because of the climate at the Capitol, it could have been anybody. I do agree that once the police officer said you're going to be arrested, he had to follow through. People could say, well, why did she knock the second time? Why did she knock after she was warned? Because some things you just have to do because they're right. Sometimes you have to stand up for what people, listen, she's a voted in representative of the Georgia people. She was there to do her job. her job was blocked by the governor refusing to be transparent about his job. So is there going to be any backlash on the governor saying, why are you signing bills in public without a witness? You know, I don't know about that, but it's wrong to see a representative. If she was a Democratic representative, would she have been allowed in?
See, this is what I'm saying. Right now, today, I think anybody who opposes anyone, everybody feels totally justified in shutting down an opponent. That's conservatives to liberals. That's liberals to conservatives. This is across the board. There's an old Buffalo Springfield song, and I'm old, so I like that music. It's before my time, actually. I was in kindergarten or something. But it says, there's a million people in the street, and they're all protesting, and it says, they're all carrying signs, mostly say, hooray for our side. That's a really clever line. And the reason it's right is because we take so many people say, that girl got arrested, but she's on my side politically, so that's wrong. Well, this person lost their job over doing the same thing. I don't care about that person. They're on the other side of the politic. We need to get back to, hey, it's for everyone. This is for every person. We need to have, that's what a republic is, by the way. A republic is a system of government where everybody's under the same law. There isn't one law for this person and one law for that. So that is the definition of a republic. It is a system where the top to the bottom, president to the, bus driver, and is all under, if you speed, you can get a ticket. I mean, that's a republic. And we need to get back to that. We're not there, by the way. We're not even close to there. It's too contentious.
Brandy, let me ask you, do you see the law working or being used to abuse power?
Absolutely. For me, especially because of the climate, I feel like those police officers could have taken a different route. She was nonviolent. She could have been cited, $10,000 because you knocked on the door again. Why does everything have to end with a violent arrest for knocking on a door? That just, to me, they've gone from policing to parenting. That's, go in the corner and go on punishment for, said thing. And because we're watching people kill people and be walked away and given McDonald's when they're finished. We're watching people be politely walked to the car after they've massacred people. And this woman knocks on a door and gets dragged away. I don't get that. I don't understand. It's almost like, and I understand that different states have different policies that they have to follow. I get that if arrest is what's necessary because she knocked on the door, but what is the law? She incited. No, it's not inciting. It's
no, she
yeah, and I don't know the law in Georgia. I don't know if there is one. I mean, you have to have a statute to arrest somebody, though, in all 50 states. So there has to be a statute written down. And by the way, Brandy, I got a question for you. I don't know the answer. Did she get booked or did she get cited after out? Because a lot of times when you take somebody away, even in handcuffs, you do cite and release them away from the crowd. That does happen.
Look it up. I'm not sure.
I don't know either. I'm just asking. Or were they booked into jail, or were they cited and released to show up in court on the day that they're? I have no clue. I just asked.
Look it up. I'm not sure.
All right.
But you wouldn't do it right there. You wouldn't. In that case, you wouldn't do it at the door of the governor. You would pull them aside and do that.
Here's the court documents. She was charged with knowingly and intentionally knocking on the governor's door while he was signing a bill, and then stomping on Officer L.T. Langford's foot 3 times as she was being escorted out of the property. Langford accused her of kicking him, according to the arrest warrant.
Well, I could see that being against the law in every 50 states. That would be something else. Knocking on the door, I don't know if there's a statute for that.
Did she stomp on the foot, or was she being dragged away and stumbling as they were turning her from backwards to forwards?
I agree with you. I was just saying that the statute, I can see that being a statute. I don't know of a statute that says you can't knock on the door while a bill's being signed. I don't know of one. I did not.
That's what they charged her with, knocking on the door 3 times,
but that
while
has to be a
knowing
statute.
that a governor is signing a bill. When is that law?
That's what I'm saying. It has to be a statute. You have to have a number and a letter associated with that. And I don't know what that is. And that's what I'm saying. You can't, I don't arrest somebody for DUI. I arrest them for 23-152.
Right.
BC. I now write on the side driving under the influence, but I don't write on the booking paper driving under the influence, and then that's it. I have to state the statute that's being broken. And if I arrest you for murder, 187 PC, if I arrest you for domestic violence, whatever it is, rape, whatever it is, 261 PC, I don't write rape. I write 261 PC. That's what you have to do. So I don't know what law they're being broken there.
So here, I want to give some more information about this, guys.
Yeah, I know nothing. That's terrible.
So here it is.
On the surface, let me say something on the surface as a cop. It looks terrible. When I saw it, it looked terrible. I said, I don't know what's going on here. There may be more to this than I understand. But on the surface, it looks to me like they drew a line in the sand and said, don't cross this. And the person said, you can't stop me. And so it becomes a contest between these two people. And that's what it looks like to me. Now, I'm not defending either side or condemning either side. That's human nature a lot of times. But that's more what it looks like. Because, by the way, knocking on the door isn't stopping anybody from signing the bill, not stopping anybody from reading the bill. It's already been passed by the legislature. So that doesn't do any good as far as stopping the bill. So what are you doing that for? Then the cop says, don't do this. And honestly, I'm like, if I was his partner, I'd say, are you sure we got a law that says you can't do that? Because I don't know of that law. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Looks to me like a contest.
Let me tell you. I think the police officers need to be held accountable for their decision, because they made the decision to arrest her in that moment. They made the decision to do it backwards. No one told them, hey, turn around and drag her out. They made the decision to not let her walk. They made the decision to drag her backwards. Now, she wasn't going 100% willingly. She was, they were having to pull her, but it's better to be pulled forward than to be dragged backward. But here is the Constitution of Georgia. It says this: legislators are free from arrest during sessions of the General Assembly, except for charges of treason, felonies, or breach of the peace. Now, here's an interesting piece of news. Brian Kemp, who is the governor now, he had a then state senator, Nikema Williams, arrested while she was protesting the absentee ballots, declaring him governor. So he has a habit of people. Nikema Williams is also an African-American woman. The charges were dropped against Williams, and now she is a U.S. House member. She has a lawsuit against that. So this is not the first time he's involved in arresting people that don't agree with him. It just
doesn't make sense to me. I wouldn't do that. And not only that, but even politically, it seems like a really bad idea. But because you look like, as a cop, I always tell my trainees, in public, you got to understand you're under a microscope of people that don't even know the big picture. They may not know what led up to this or never know. So you've got to make sure you look good on film. I mean, to say it, like people are filming you. You may actually be in the right, but it may not look like it. So make sure you're in the right setting. And it doesn't sound like to me that he's doing that. But I don't know him. I have no idea. But it doesn't seem good. And I said the same thing about the cop. I'm watching this thing going, man, if it were my partner, I'd be like, ho, 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 ho. And that's not because I'm so smart. It's just because I already think about this stuff. I think about being on camera. People film me all the time. It's all the time. And they'll tell you, I'm filming you. And I say, thank you. I like to be on camera. It's good. I'm kind of a ham. I hope I don't do a song and dance for you. But I don't get mad and tell them put their cameras away or any of that stuff, because all that does is make you look like you're trying to hide something. This is not a good, as a person. But by the way, on the second note, I would have probably told her, if I was her friend, well, don't knock twice. I mean, we're standing here. We can protest. We can hold our signs. They've told us not to knock. Let's just hold our signs and do what we're doing. That's what I would have probably told her. And then if I was the cop's partner, I'd say, wait, hold on. Don't tell her not to knock. I mean, I'm not trying to pick sides. What I'm saying is I'm trying to make the good decision.
Right.
That
the cops
benefits everybody, all people. We're not here for one side or the other as the cops. Shouldn't be.
But there were 3 officers. Could they not have just stood at the archway of the door so that nobody could get to the door? She wouldn't have balled through them to get to the door. Why couldn't they just barricaded the door?
I don't
so
know.
that nobody could get there. There's, hindsight 2020, they probably wish they did that instead. But this just proves how out of control our government is, that they are arresting their own people. They're arresting each other.
Can I ask this? Do you know this, Brandy? Did they know she was a representative, or did she represent herself as that? I don't remember. Did she say, "Hi, I'm Congresswoman such and such," or whatever?
I don't know that she specifically did. I know in the video you can hear, I can't tell, everybody's back is to the camera. So, but you can hear them say she's a representative trying to do what her official or her constituents.
I just asked, and that's something I was unaware of.
And she was saying, someone needs to witness the signing of the bill. So there was definitely identification of why she was there, who she was, and why.
That was just a question that came to my mind as I'm running through all this stuff. Like, what would I do if I'm standing there? Because I do run into politicians pretty regularly as a cop, and treat them with respect.
We're going to segue this, unless, Brandon, do you have anything else you want to offer on this? I think it's important to bring stuff like this to light, because our government, it doesn't matter what color, our government is divisive, and they are just taking off whatever they want to do and getting away with it. And that's, partly, we're not going to go into the bill that was being signed, but it was a sign about voting rights and who's going to vote and how they're going to get the votes and all this. And it wasn't even like, the Republicans don't back this at all, from what I understand, the interviews that I heard, but they're signing these bills anyway. Nobody cares about bipartisan anymore. But also, if you look at our lives, what does this have to do with us? Because I think, our original topic today is the immunizations. I don't know if you guys have felt it where you live or with your family or friends or job or community, but I have seen an increase of division just in my world because of immunizations. I have not been able to have a conversation about seeing somebody without being asked, "Are you immunized?" If you don't have the immunization, wait until you're immunized. Well, what if I don't get immunized? Well, then you can't ever come over. And I'll talk more about that. But here's a question I want to ask. It is one more thing dividing our country. At the core, it's dividing people again. But they said it's a choice. In the beginning, you can choose to be immunized or not to be immunized. I have 2 questions on that. One is, can it be a choice not to do something that is for the betterment of the community? The government has come out and said it. The CDC has come out and said it. The narrative is this inoculation will slow down COVID-19. It will keep people from spreading the virus. Can you say no to that if the government is saying this is going to happen? Just stay there. Don't branch out yet. Can you do that?
If there's a law, yes. But if there's no law and it's a suggestion, then I don't think so. I mean, like, I want you to do this. This is our recommendation. You don't have to do it. If it's a law written in the books, then I think you have to do it.
It's
You can
simple,
fight
right?
against that law. You can campaign against that law. You can try and knock on the door of the governor and say, or the president, say, don't sign this law. You can do all that stuff. But once it's a law, I don't really know if you can. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you can.
Okay, so it's not a law.
Right.
It is just a recommendation at this point in our world. But here's a conversation I had with someone. It doesn't matter if it's not a law. It's being told that you should do it. So why aren't you doing it? So here's the conversation I had with this person who got the vaccine. Okay. I said, well, why are you doing it? Tell me why you're doing it. What's out there that makes you,
Right.
do this immunization? And he said, well, it's based on what the CDC said, what Dr. Fauci said, what the government is telling us, the professionals, the scientists, they're all saying that this should work. This is what you need to do. So I line up and do it. But then turned around and was saying how the very people that he just mentioned don't know what they're talking about. They're changing it from 6 feet to 3 feet. They don't know if there's, you should get it or you shouldn't get it. Like they don't know if it's going to get a variation is going to help, or you're going to have to get another immunization with a So it's like, okay, wait a minute. In one person's conversation, you went from, I have to get the vaccine because these people are saying it's the wise thing to do, but I also can't trust any of these people because they don't know what they're doing. So I'm like, Brandy, does that make sense to you?
No, but I think over the last year, a lot of stuff hasn't made sense, and people just kind of jump head first into concrete. Not, it's over a swimming pool, but they forgot to tell you there's no water down there, and you weren't smart enough to look down and see that there was no water down there. So I think that there's things that make sense, and my choice is my choice. I see somebody down there willing to catch me, but I'm just not willing to jump. So I have seen, people have said, you're not invited if you haven't been immunized. I think that's the right word.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, no big deal. I guess I'll have to find some new friends because that's just not what I want to do. I guess if it gets bad enough, like where I can't eat or drive or, do those types of things, then I'll be forced into it. But it'll probably never be my first decision. Where some people are like, yeah, they're gung-ho about getting it and they believe wholeheartedly in it. I've never got vaccines since I was like 5 years old. And so I don't want to just jump head first into a vaccine when I've not even ever got the flu shot. So I feel like if I get it, it's going to be some kind of reverse reaction that I would be like the 0.1999 percentage. Yeah, I don't want to be in that percentage. So, but yeah, I have seen people say, if we're having a party, but if we need your immunization record on the way in the door, or we're having an event and we'll need to see your card to get in. So it's going to be like the new like ID card.
Well, let me ask you this. Based on that, you said, okay, it's our choice. But based on what you just said, what's the choice we're being given? It's not the choice to take the vaccine or not. That's not the choice. The choice is be able to go to restaurants, be able to go to school, be able to go to your doctor's office, be able to go support your loved ones when they're sick or not. That's the choice. Be able to do life or not.
There was a
That's
couple that we were friends with when we were all young and single people. All old people were young ones. And Barbara and I were in our 20s, and we had a couple that were friends. And after church, it was football season. A lot of the guys were going to get together and watch the playoffs. And so we were talking about it after church, standing around. And I remember Eric turns to his girlfriend, who he did marry, and they've been married for 30 plus years. But at that time, we were all young single people. And he turns to his girlfriend and he says, I remember this really well. He goes, you mind if I go watch the football game with the guys? And she says, I don't mind if you want to. And we all started laughing. We're like, you better not want to.
That meant, yep.
And I mean, it was funny because it was clear that was not her plan that day.
Right.
But she said it nice, not really.
I mean, how often as parents have we said, you can have dessert if you eat all your vegetables?
Yeah.
It's that if then clause. So you can stay not getting the vaccine, but we're gonna make this real inconvenient, real tight. I know that the one of the first things they're gonna do is the passport is now gonna include it. I never got my first passport. If I don't hurry up and get across the water, I ain't never gonna be able to go. So it's gonna be those luxury things that come first. It's like you can have your dessert, but it's not going to be without eating all your vegetables, and it's going to be that decision. So I do. It's not a decision without consequences.
Right.
And maybe right now this isn't going to be that big a deal. Maybe there's nothing wrong with this vaccine. Okay, that's fine. Maybe someday you get it, Randy, and you have no negative side effects. Everything's fine.
Right.
Here's the problem: when you take a free society that we have been, and you start making rules like this and then making it so uncomfortable, or even a law that people have to do all these things, that's opening up the future, which is going to come, because there's going to be a mark on the right hand or forehead that you're not going to be able to buy or sell anything without it. Well, the World War II generation probably wouldn't have accepted that mark. They said, no, you can't make me do that. But
Right.
we're conditioning people to say, oh, yes, whatever you say, I'll do it. We're conditioning generations to do that, and we're doing it quickly. This is really fast.
Yes.
And because the World War II people are just dying off now. I mean, the end of them. There's not many left, but it wasn't long ago that this would not have flown. Now,
But the thing is this. I forgot my train of thought when you said that. But here's the thing. I'm just going to go on and say this. It's not about the vaccine. It is about conditioning people. Because I have asked a lot of people. Now, I'm not here. This show isn't about anti-vaxxers. It's just not about being anti-vaccine. We're going to get to the point where we want people to know what's going on so that you can make, who you're listening, knowledgeable decisions. So you don't just go around thinking everything's going to be peachy keen if you got it or don't get it. Like, how are we treating each other? Family members are saying, you can't come to my house because you didn't get vaccinated. Like, come on. We have to be better at this. But the question I asked this in a doctor's office yesterday, because they were not allowing family members to go in with the other member.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, this isn't a family. This is a specialist. People were really sick. They were really old, and they needed someone with them. But only those who were inoculated were allowed to go back with their family member. Those who were not immunized were not allowed back. Now, sitting there watching this and seeing I'm glad I got immunized for the people that were allowed. And the what? I can't? No one told me. To the people who weren't allowed, at something that's not a law. They said it was a decision, but I am seeing, as I'm going around my community, the decision is impacting real people's lives. I watched an elderly woman who just had a stroke in a walker beg for her daughter to go in with her, and she couldn't do it because she wasn't immunized. But there was a healthy man, seemingly, of course he's not healthy because he's at the doctor's, but he was a spry man, no outside issues, and his wife was allowed to go in with him because she was curious. She does not just want to know what's going on. She was allowed in because they had been immunized. That is not the way we're supposed to be. So I said, so let me ask you this. What about people who have had COVID? Don't they have antibodies? Is this not taking in effect anybody? Like, can the doctor give me a COVID paper saying I've had COVID? And this is the answer to that. The WHO made a statement saying there is no evidence that people who have recovered from COVID-19 have antibodies that are protecting them from a second infection. The health authority said that immunity certificates were harmful as they could create a false sense of security and lead to people ignoring health protocol.
There's no evidence that getting that immunization has caused that either.
I want
There's
to know
no evidence of that. But of course it's working. And of course, if you had a virus and you got cured from it, you have the antibodies. That's how you got cured, of course. So the World Health Organization is saying something that's true. There's no evidence of it. That's true. But it's true, also false, because the World Health Organization knows that anybody that has a self-curing from any virus has antibodies.
Yes. Yes. And I also went further and said, well, what if I go to my doctor and get an antibody test and it proves I have COVID antibodies? Yeah. Can I then go in with family members? Here's the answer. No, because there's different variants. And so you might have the antibody for COVID-19, but maybe not for a variant. So you're still contagious. Unless you have the immunization record, they're not even saying immunization, record, we can't guarantee you're safe.
And you can't guarantee it's the same argument, Melanie.
The immunization is not guaranteed to work against the variants.
Every variant. Either. Right.
So to me, if you've had it or you've been immunized, you're on the same playing field. Not only to mention, we're both all still wearing masks and staying 6 feet apart. So it's not about getting the immunization. It is about conditioning, in my beautiful point of view. Because two classes of people, COVID, immunized, they're in the same class, if you ask me. Yeah. They both don't really know, unless you get an antibody test, if it's working in your system. You both don't really know how it's going to react to a second viral, what do you call it?
Strain.
Exposure. And you don't know if it's going to work on any other variants. So why can't you just go and say, hey, I've had COVID. Here's my doctor note that I've had COVID, and that be equal to getting immunization.
Well, it is equal, really, in medical. And I'm no doctor, but everybody knows that. You get the flu.
But they're not holding to that.
The only reason you get over the flu is because your body developed antibodies that fought off the flu. That's the only reason you get over it. That's it. There's no other reason you get over it. They don't die by themselves. Your antibodies goes in and kills the flu virus. That's what happens.
Same thing with COVID. With any virus, the only way you get through it is your antibodies. That's why they say don't stop a fever right away unless it gets out of control, because your fever is helping to produce the antibodies. It's getting your body ready to fight the virus. You say you're going to get to the point, Brandy, where you're like, if I can't do stuff, well, let me tell you what's going on. Here is one headline. From Denmark to Israel, the country's experimenting with COVID passports. All right, here's another headline. Israel is launching COVID immunity passports. I love this sentence. Here's what they allow you to do. Now, I'm going to read some things because it sounds like, well, that's just over in another country. But the reporter was asked about United States. So here's what you can do in Israel. Let me just go there. If you have the COVID-19 passport, you will be able to do things like gyms, hotels, concerts, things that are considered non-mandatory. However, I did see a YouTube video of Israel, and it was at the grocery store. They were having to show their card or blue slip at the grocery store to an officer outside the door. If you couldn't show it, saying you were you had the immunization, they didn't let you go into the grocery store. That's not an option for most people. Right. Okay. They said it's very convenient. It's on your phone. So why not everybody do it? It's your ticket back to normalcy. If you don't have it, you will not get back to normal. It proves that you had 2 doses of vaccine. Here's one I want. The question was asked, is this discrimination against people who don't want a shot or for those who can't get one for medical reasons? And they said, if you're not going to participate, you will not get back to public life or social life or an economic life. You're just not going to do it. Here's the question. Now, in some countries, like the UK, there's a battle to do it, to not to do it. Mm-hmm. But this is the problem. The governments are debating this, but businesses are deciding to do it. Friends are doing it. Families doing it. So even though some of the governments are saying, we might hold off and some are doing it, we're seeing this discrimination against non-immunized people. Now, I've alluded to the fact that I'm not going to take the shot. Um, I'm not anti-vaxxed at all. My husband's taken the shot. That's his choice. But for me and my health conditions, and for some of my family members that have immunity issues that interact with drugs very poorly, this is not something that our doctors have said is the best thing for us to do, because we don't know what reaction we're going to get. If we do it at the hospital. Why am I going to do that to myself? It's like saying, hey, I baked a new recipe, but just in case it kills you or causes you a heart issue, go eat it at the hospital.
Right.
It better be so much Cool Whip and ice cream inside that thing. I'm not going to take a shot that I've already had the virus for, and it might cause an adverse reaction of the 1%. You're not going to get me to do that. God has to tell me that's what he wants me to do, and then I'll do it.
I myself believe in defending the rights of people who disagree with you. We've talked about that so many times in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Defending the rights of people you don't agree with does not seem to be common anymore, but I really believe in it. I've not got the vaccine myself, but I'm not against it. I may get it. I'm a healthy person. I don't get flu vaccines. It's not because I'm against the flu. If I got the COVID at my physical health levels, I would go through it like my friends and my one daughter and my nephews have all gone through it. And then I would be on the other side. In fact, I think I had it last January. Most people, I had all the symptoms last January, except for the taste. And I think I did, but I don't know that. But my point is I would get it and go through it. So that's the reason I'm not getting it. But I'm not against vaccines. But I know people who are against vaccines, and I want to defend their right to have their voices heard. And I mean, not like you're saying for you individually against this vaccine for your health reasons. I know people who are against vaccines, period. And they don't like them. Well, look, I don't agree with those people, but I want them to stand up here on the stage with me and have the same hour to talk about this that I do and tell them why I think it's good to do it. If I do, let them say why they don't. That should be important. Once again, that first section or first segment and now this segment, none of that's going on. Everybody just gets on their own side and starts throwing stuff at the other side. This is bad. A house divided cannot stand, Lincoln said, and we will not stand. 50 years from now, this will not be a free country if we keep going this route.
I don't think it's a free country anymore, period, to be honest with you.
Well, it's more free than these other countries that are making the people go to the grocery store. But we will be right there with them.
Well, let me tell you, according to the CNBC report, the reporter asked, is there anything here in the US happening about the passports? Here's the answer. President Biden issued an executive order which, among other things, asked his government officials to look into linking vaccines in the US with international vaccine certificates and creating electronic versions of them, doing the same as Europe and the European Union is doing. So, yes, it's already in the works here in the United States for this to be linked.
And see, I don't see, this is something else I really don't like, and it started mostly two administrations ago, where presidents, and Trump did it too, signing executive orders right and left. We are not run by we can sign executive orders, but nothing that's constitutional. You can't do that. You have to have things voted on. You have to, and by the way, they can do it if they let them get away with it. But Obama signed a ton of executive orders. Trump did too. And now Biden's doing it too. And I'm actually worried about this. I mean, politically, I'm worried about this. The other day, he said he was going to sign this, they were saying, oh, he's just going to sign this thing about gun control. That's a Second Amendment issue. You don't just get to do that. That has to go through Congress. And then after it's signed into law, it's going to be contested in the in the Supreme Court. That's the way the system works, not just one guy saying, I don't care what the Constitution says. And it seems like this is more of a constitutional issue. And by the way, once again, I'm not picking on Biden. Trump did it. Obama did it. It was like all of a sudden they said, hey, nobody's arguing with us. Why don't we Congress isn't going to give me what I want. I'm just going to sign a law.
Okay,
Seems
but
like that's
Brandy,
the way people are doing it now. And they should not do that. Bad idea.
Brandy, I'm going to answer Bill's question. I got a question based on what Bill said. They're doing these things, Congress, the president, they're signing all these bills, doing executive orders. The businesses are saying you can't come in because everyone's letting them do it. That's what Bill said. Everyone's just letting them do it. However, if you don't let them do it and you protest, you might go to jail. Where is it? Where is the playing ground that we can have an informative conversation of both sides, be heard, and come up with something that is democratic? I don't see it being able to have it. Brandon, what do you think?
I'm with you. I feel like it's a open and shut case, even though they say we have the right to vote and the right to speak and freedom of this. I don't really think that's the case. I think it's still a matter of there's things that we don't see. For some reason, I just feel like there's still something else working in the background. And by the time the laws get signed, or case in point, when the stimulus check was signed, that money was in the bank in less than 10 hours. Some people had the day he signed it, they had their checks 8 hours. You telling me Wells Fargo and SunTrust and all of the you got they that bill was signed days before, and then they came to the public and they show us with his pen in his hand, signing the bill, say, oh, so I think we're behind the times. So you have a right to this, and you have a right to choose if you're going to get the vaccine. But what they have this is made up, but let's just say, but in June, we're going to roll out that you no longer have a choice. We just wanted everybody that was going to go willingly to go first, and you unwillingly participants can come on the second wind. And on the third wind, the unwilling participants, now you'll get jail time or you'll get some kind of fine. So I think that they're way, way ahead of us, and we're trying to get out in front of us. But to answer the other question, can we come together? If we came together, it would have to be in small cell groups, kind of like we used to do at church, like 4 or 5 here, 10 of us here, 5 of us there, still talking about the same thing, implementing it individually, but there's no way that 400 or 500 of us can get together to push this thing forward.
Well, that just seems very helpless.
Well, and especially right now, once again, if you go to the people who disagree with you politically, now right now you go and hold up a sign protesting, but your people are in power. You're agreeing with the person in power. You are golden, man. It doesn't even matter if you burn the freaking city to the ground. Oh, right. No, these are good people.
Right.
But if you're on the other side, it doesn't matter if you're just holding up a sign and knocking on the door. And I'm against that. Now, like I said, I'm very political in certain ways. I am. But my political opponents have to have the exact same rights and freedoms I do. Otherwise, it's not free. It's not. Right. But doesn't seem to be the case today. And that doesn't seem to be going on at all. And there's 2 standards. There's a double standard here for one group, not for the other. The one group, there's outrage for their behavior. The other group can do the same thing, and there's no outrage for their behavior. In fact, there's even sometimes like, these are good. This is good that they're doing it. And I'm like, but it's the same thing. They did the same exact thing. And so I don't know if there's hope in the near future. I certainly have no idea if there's hope in the long future, because the other thing we've talked about on the show, and I'm going to finish my statements with this. I am not convinced either way if this is the judgment of God. But I do believe he's taken his hand of protection off of us because we asked him to.
That's true.
Every child from the 1600s, long before the United States was a country, in the primers of New England, they had a little prayer that they would say before school. I am 59 years old. I didn't say that prayer because one generation before me, the year I was born, year after I was born, was the year that the law was signed saying kids can no longer pray in school. The prayer wasn't even a Christian prayer. It was just a prayer to God to bless our country and to bless our, I believe that I read it was like, bless our teacher, bless our principal, bless our governor, bless our president, bless our country. Didn't say if they're a Republican or a Democrat, just said, God, protect these people and bless us. And it sure seemed like he did for a long time. 1963, that first generation that did not grow up praying, that generation turned into the Summer of Love, turned into the 70s, which was a mess, turned into the 80s. Seemed like we had a little bit of a reprieve, but now we're just going like a fast track. And I don't know that it's God's judgment. I'm not going to go that far because I don't know, and I'm not pretending to be a prophet. But I do believe that that hand of protection that God had over the United States that defeated the Nazis, that defeated the communists, and all these things that were moving around the world to completely control people. And the United States was used to defeat that. I think that hand of protection that was over us has been removed. And now the spiritual world is real. Satan's real. He is allowed to do things to the United States that he was allowed to do to other countries. And it's very destructive. So whether it's a judgment or not, I do think it's spiritual because people aren't making very rational decisions, and yet they're intelligent people doing this. So I think this is very spiritual. Behind the scenes, the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and rulers of the darkness. Guess what? I think we're losing that wrestling match right now in the United States.
You know, I agree. I agree. It is a spiritual battle. It's not just human against human. It's just not, because you got too many people that are sane, loving, kind people that are acting so out of character. And this division is across the world. It's not just, oh, California is acting crazy. The world is acting crazy.
Right.
And so you can't get the world to act crazy without the principalities of the air causing it to be so. So I agree with that. And I do believe God has said, you know what? You told me to get out of your business. I'm out of your business, you know, but to those who call upon him, we are still his. He still has us. So I said, where's the hope? I want to share this because I want to give practical information out. Knowledge is everything. We are to have knowledge and wisdom. We are to have discernment. Now that you know that there is even a remote possibility that this immunization is going to be a rule of acceptance or denial into life, here's what I suggest. Call your doctor's office, call your school, call the hospitals, ask them, what are your rules about coming in without an immunization? They'll be able to tell you, this is what you're going to be able to do here. If you're not immunized, you can't go in with your loved ones. If you're not immunized, you can't see the doctor unless emergency situations, no health checks. They will be done on the computer, still, via the website until you get immunized. You need to be a person with enough knowledge to be proactive. So that, like Brandy said, maybe if they say I can't go to work and can't eat, maybe I'm going to go ahead and get it because I'm not that against it.
Right.
You need to know before you're like those people I saw yesterday that are faced with it in the middle of their emergency. And they're like, what? What? Call the people, your schools, your doctors, call the everywhere, your grocery store. Are you looking at an immunization record for admittance? Then make a decision with wisdom what you need to do. All right. And with your doctors for some people. Being informed really is your only way to stand. We have to be informed. Make the phone calls. Call your pharmacist. Am I going to be able to come in and pick up my medicine? They might say, no, you're going to have to get it delivered. These changes are going to come in either small swoops or big ones, but they're here. Talk to your family members. Say, hey, I'm not going to get immunized. What's the consequence? Will I be allowed to come to the 4th of July barbecue or not? They might say, yes, but you still have to wear your mask even though you're around family. Know what you're doing before you show up, because it's the showing up and getting blindsided that makes us act out of character. It makes us angry. It makes
Mhm.
us get, what are you talking about? And that causes the disruption. If you know ahead of time, hey, I'm not going to be wearing a mask in my own home and I haven't been immunized. Do you want to come to my house? They say no. Say, okay, I'm good with that.
I
We'll
saw a
continue.
young man running yesterday, just yesterday, running down the road, no one around him, not a soul for a mile. He's on this pretty deserted road, and he's got a mask on. And I'm like, that is so interesting. But he's young, and I know he believes it. I'm not going to pull over and tell him to take it off, but I'm just like, how is it possible that you think in any way that that's keeping you from getting COVID-19? I don't know. I honestly don't know. And he was running, young, healthy guy. I remember being that guy when I was young, but I didn't have a mask on. But he's running along there, and my brain says we are not thinking alike, him and I. Maybe he's correct and maybe I'm wrong, but we certainly aren't on the same wavelength.
Well, I want to transition for the last segment. It's just very quick. Here on this show, we were talking about the kids being left behind. And it came in a conversation. I think, Bill, you had to leave or you weren't on that day. And Brandy and I was talking, and we're like, somebody has to do something. And we believe that God initiated something called Bridge the Gap. Okay. Um, and so we began to pray about it here at Truth to Hear. I'm going to tell you what, it has become this Bridge the Gap Transition and Educational Center. It's an environment to help women and children transition from all they lost back to who they are called to be. We have secured a house um, to be the facility for Bridge the Gap Transition and Educational Center. The vision has come quickly. It's been like what, 2 weeks, maybe three since we've been talking about it, praying about it. It is a 2-story house. I will have pictures. We're putting up a promotional video this weekend. I get the keys this afternoon. So once we have the promotional video, I will share that. But it is going to be a place where children can come, they can get tutored, families can come and get psychological help, counseling, a safe place for people to come for meals. We'll be cooking. We have a full entire kitchen stocked full of food that will be going over there from our pantry. So there will be meals to plan and to feed people who are hungry. And there will be 2 spots for women that are homeless to come and stay. Of course, there will all the safety rules will go, background checks, all that. But it's an exciting thing to share with everybody. If you want to be part of it, um, you know, how's best to be part is to what? Donate, become a partner. You can use PayPal to become a partner at paypal.me/truth to hear or the phone number 818-398-9618. But you can PayPal directly to Truth to Hear to be a partner. And we're going to I think Monday, I will do a video on what does it mean to be a partner with Truth to Hear on this house, and the video showing you this amazing facility that God has given us to meet the needs of our community. So what do you guys think?
I think that's what we should be doing as Christians, period. Not just that house, but always reaching out to people. The Bible says that this is true religion and it's undefiled. You take care of the widow and the orphan. Now, that that meant people who couldn't take care of themselves. I mean, that's really what it meant. Now, I know that in our government, we say, oh, well, we have welfare for that and everything else. Yeah, we do. And I'm not against that. That's fine. Some people need it. But you know what? The church and Christians reach out to people. Nobody says anything. They don't get any pat on the back. Nobody's going to pat you on the back for doing this, Melanie. Nobody, except for God himself. And you know what? That's who you want the pat on the back from.
I already got a lot of that's not backlash, but people saying, really, you got enough on your plate. Why would you do this? What is this about? Why are you trying to do something? Why can't you just let people go to DSF and isn't it enough you take food to the homeless in the streets? No, it's time to bring them home. It's time to bring 1 by 1, 2 by 2, the people from the street into a house, transition them to get their house back. Because these are people who lost their home due to COVID because they couldn't go to work. It wasn't their choice, and so this is going to be a home for those people that they lost everything because the government shut them down, you
Mhm.
know, and the children will have a place to go and get tutored by educational teachers, by therapists. It's going to be a fantastic thing. It's just happening a lot faster than we thought. So I just wanted to share that with you and all our viewers to keep praying for the Bridge the Gap Educational Center and Transition Home. Well, that's our show for today. I hope we left it with hope. God is working on your behalf, even if you don't know it, even if you don't see it. One day He's going to show up and say, I got you. And the answer will be there. And it doesn't have to take a long time either.
I want to say one thing. There's a guy at our church this week, and he did our radio show with us yesterday, Dean Braxton. He went to heaven for an hour and 45 minutes. It's crazy. I mean, it's all documented. It's very, very documented stuff. But he literally did die for a long, long time. Should be brain dead. Shouldn't have never come back, but God brought him back. And you can look him up on YouTube. He's got a great stories. But he said something interesting that we've talked about on this show. Look him up and listen to him. But he was asked, he's an African American. He
Wait, say
said,
his name one
what
more time.
color? Dean Braxton. And he said, what color was Jesus? He was asked that question because he saw Jesus. He said, he's not really a color. He goes, you're looking at him. And yeah, on this earth, he was darker skinned with brown hair, I'm sure, because he was Middle Eastern. But he goes, when you're looking at him, he goes, his hair looks like you set a sun on top of his head. He goes, his eyes were twinkling, which it says in Revelations, it actually says that. And so he's like, look, he's not got blue eyes and blonde hair. He's not got dark hair and brown eyes. He is beyond all that. And it encompasses all of us. There is no difference in us. There's no white and black. There isn't any of that in God. And I just think that was really neat. And he was on the radio yesterday with us. He's on my Facebook feed, but he's also all over YouTube and stuff. And he's speaking at our church this weekend. Dean Braxton, you should look him up. Everybody should. He's got a great story.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. That's something that we can look forward to this weekend as you rest and enjoy your Sabbath or the Passover that starts tonight. That'll be a great piece of information to look up and take part of. Again, you can email me at info@truthtohear.org if you have anything you want to say, or always just comment at Truth to Hear on Facebook or YouTube or any social media that you see us on. Don't forget your daily dose every single day, Monday through Friday. And you got highlights on the weekend. Thank you for joining us. Have a great week.